Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters. You are now tuned into another episode on Alive. Let's go. Alrighty, so today's topic is titled The Uncaused First Cause. So we're going to look at a cosmological argument, and we're going to dive into a little bit of apologetics. Now, apologetics is studying the evidence to prove God's existence and also to prove Christianity. Now, apologetics is my favorite. I love it. It's my ultimate favorite, and I highly encourage all of my Christian brothers and sisters to start studying apologetics. Take some courses, read some books, watch some videos. However you learn, just try to start learning about apologetics. It will arm you with evidence to prove what you believe. And as we all know, we're instructed in Scripture to be able to defend what we believe. And this will help you not, defend a scripture with another scripture, but defend Christianity as a whole with evidence. This helps you bring evidence to the table. Now, before we get into it, there's this new age thinking going on that truth doesn't exist. I've heard time and time before that I've heard people say, well, truth doesn't exist. Well, you can flip that back on them whenever they say truth doesn't exist. Is that statement true? Now, if they say that statement is true, well, they just dismantled their whole entire debate, their whole argument right there. So truth does exist. And also sometimes you'll hear people say, well, how can we know what's true? How can we know truth? Well, let me tell you, you could know truth. Come on, we can know truth. Truth exists and we can know it, all right? So now that we've got that out of the way, we're going to take a look at Einstein's theory of gravity and space-time. Now, in this theory, he proposes that the entire universe inflation came out of zeroness, nothing, okay? Now, he also proposes that the universe is expanding. It's slowly expanding, okay? So if you rewind time, it all comes back to a single point, all right? Now, another thing that he proposes in this theory is that everything within the universe all came into existence at the same exact time, all right? So we're going to be looking at that. Some really, really fascinating stuff, by the way. So if you rewind the universe and go back to that singular point, that's the point of the Big Bang. Now, listen, I know we as Christians, we tend to run from the Big Bang. We shy away from it. We don't want to deal with it. But listen, I'm going to be honest with you. I believe in the Big Bang. I just know who banged it, all right? Now, we as Christians, we have to deal with this instead of running from it because it is a fact. Listen, the radiation afterglow is the smoking gun for the Big Bang. It's undeniable. We can't deny it no more. We have to deal with it. Now, in the beginning of Genesis, it says God spoke the universe into existence. God created the heavens and the earth, right? Now, he just says he spoke it into existence. It doesn't really say what happened when he did that. It could have been a big bang that everything came about afterwards. So just because you believe in the Big Bang, it doesn't take God out of the equation. In fact, it helps us prove God's existence. Because like I said, in Einstein's theory of gravity and space-time, everything came into existence all at the same time, all right? Now, so what we're going to do is we're going to look at the uncaused first cause. Who was it? What caused the universe to come into existence, okay? Well, a way that we can narrow that down to it being God is simple. It's very simple. So basically, okay, this picture behind me, all right? Let's say I wrote it all. I made the glass, I made the picture frame, and then I hung it up, okay? Now, I am not a part of that ink. I'm not a part of that glass. I'm not a part of the picture frame. Why? Because I'm the one that made it, okay? So whatever caused the universe to come into existence can't be a part of the universe, all right? So here's the cool thing. We know that space, or not space, but the universe is composed of space, matter, and time, right? So whatever caused it must be spaceless, timeless, and immaterial, all right? Because, I mean, if there was no space, if there was no time, if there was no matter, then it can't be that. It wasn't around. So again, whatever caused it must be spaceless, timeless, and immaterial. Not only that, it must be powerful because of what it created. It must be intelligent because we see intelligent design all around us. And it must be personal because it chose to create. And it must be moral. Why? Because morality is independent from human concept. So basically, morality would exist whether we were here or not. We know what's wrong in our hearts. We know what is wrong and what's right. So morality is independent from mankind, all right, from humanity, all right. So he would also have to be moral. So we're looking at so far we're looking at a uncaused first cause that is spaceless, timeless, immaterial, powerful, personal, and intelligent, all right? That's quite literally the description that we have of who God is. In the scriptures, it says God is spirit. That's immaterial. In the scriptures, it says God is the everlasting Father. That is timeless, okay? So, you know, and he's personal. I mean, he searches our hearts. That's a very personal act. All of these descriptions describe what we believe as God, all right? So now that you've narrowed it down to that, you know that the uncaused first cause has to be a creator, an intelligent creator, which we believe is God. Another thing is that's very fascinating and interesting is the great galaxy seeds. Now, what the great galaxy seeds are, they're bundles of matter, and they're not too small, so they won't dissipate, and they're not too big, so they won't collapse and pretty much swallow the whole universe. All you have to do is just do a Google search on the great galaxy seeds, and you see quickly that it demands an intelligent design to keep it all, you know, from going mayhem, chaos, you know. It requires an intelligent design, and the great galaxy seeds are all over the universe. They're everywhere. It's amazing. So that is another great point to use to prove the existence of an intelligent creator or God. All right. So now it's like Dr. Frank Turek likes to say a lot. We're not reasoning for what we don't know. We're reasoning with what we do know. Back to the picture analogy. I can't be a part of the picture because I made the picture. Same thing with the universe. That is space, matter, and time. Whatever made it, whatever caused it, is spaceless, timeless, and immaterial. It's something that is forever and can't be dwindled down to a space. And it's amazing stuff, really. So now that you've determined and narrowed it down to it being a intelligent creator, God, now you have to look, the next question we have to ask is, well, how do we know what God it is? Is it the Christian God of the Bible? How do we figure that out? Well, the way to figure that out is to look at the evidence for the resurrection. Now, I'm going to leave that for the next video, but because it's a lot to cover, because believe it or not, there's actually a whole lot of evidence for the resurrection of Jesus Christ. But like I was saying, so now that we know it's God, we have to dwindle it down to which God. And a great way to start doing that is to look at the other religions and study them and find out which religions believe in a God. All right. And when you do that, which I do that all the time, I think it's all fascinating and interesting. I don't necessarily believe it all, but I find it very interesting. But when you do that, you find out that there's three major religions that believe in a God, which are the three major religions: Judaism, Islam, and Christianity. And then that goes back to the other question. Well, how do we know which God out of those three are the right God? And that's when it goes back to what I was saying. Now you have to prove the evidence or give the evidence for Christianity or for the resurrection. So, which we can do that. As I said, we have a lot of evidence for the resurrection, a whole lot. I mean, one, here, I'll give you one right now. And this is from most atheist scholars. They all admit that Jesus did exist. Okay, and a lot of people don't know that, but most scholars, most atheist scholars, they know Jesus existed. They tell you he did. They just don't believe he was who he said he was. Well, how do we prove that he was who he said he was? Well, we have to look at the New Testament and look at the evidence that backs up the New Testament. And like I said, I'll give you one. Um, Most scholars date the I think it's First Corinthians. Yes, First Corinthians has been dated, and it's fact. You can fact check this. It's been dated to 55 A.D. That is so close to the time Jesus died and resurrected. It's 55 years after the event. Some scholars even say it goes all the way back to the event itself. So there's one little one right there. All right. A lot of people do like to say that the New Testament was written hundreds of years later or 100 so years later afterward. That's simply not true. We can date all of the New Testament prior to 70 AD. Now, this is stuff I want to leave for the next video, but it's so interesting, I'm going to give you this one too. All right, so here's how we know that we can date all of the New Testament prior to 70 AD. Around 30 AD, Jesus made the prediction that the temple would fall and not a single stone would be left standing. Well, nowhere in the text do you find any of the disciples saying, saying he was right, it fell. What does that tell you? That tells you that everything they were writing must have been prior to 70 AD. Because if they were around when it happened, they would have most certainly said, look, it happened. He was right. But they didn't, which lets you know everything they was writing is prior to 70 AD. Now, if you're wondering why I'm saying 70 AD, because the siege of Jerusalem happened in 70 AD, and that's when the temple actually fell, and not a single stone was left standing. Now, if the disciples were around to see that, they would have most certainly included that into the text because it clearly proves Jesus was right and he made that prediction and it came true. So that's just one of the many evidences we can use to prove that the New Testament actually is not hundreds of years later. It actually goes back prior to 70 AD, 55 AD, and some of the stuff we can even date all the way back to the actual event itself. So these are eyewitness testimonies, okay? And listen, if you want to say, well, how do we know that they're making that up? We know that they're not making that up. Well, my question to you is, why would they do that? What are they gaining from that? Every one of them was killed and died a horrific death. Listen, people often die for something they believe is true. No one ever dies for something they know isn't true. Nobody. There's not a single person on this earth that would make up a story, know it's completely false, and die for it. People, like I said, people often die for things that they think is true, but no one dies for something they know is not true. You're just not going to see that. So if they made up the whole New Testament, and I'm pretty sure right before they were going to be killed, they would have said, oh, wait, we made this up. They didn't do that. They took it all the way to their deaths and died a horrific death. Why? Because they weren't making it up. It was true. So that's just a few of the evidences that we can prove towards the resurrection. And like I said, I'm gonna wait for the next video to cover all the different evidences to prove the resurrection. But going back to the uncaused first cause. So I'll end it with this. We know the uncaused first cause is God, and here's why. Because the universe came into existence all at the same time. It had a single starting point and something caused it. The universe is space, matter, and time. Whatever caused it is spaceless, timeless, and immaterial. That right there proves the existence of an intelligent design, a creator, or God. So, yeah, that's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed that information, man. I'm having so much fun doing this, and I can't wait to do the next one. Thank you all so much for tuning in and checking it out. Do me a favor, hit the subscribe button, hit that little bell so you get the notifications when I drop the next video, because like I always say, I'm definitely dropping some more. And the next one is actually going to be the evidence for the resurrection. And we're going to have a lot to discuss in that one. It's going to be quite a long video. So we got a lot to discuss in that one. So I hope I see you guys there. Thank you so much for tuning in. I love you all. God bless you all. Peace and love.